All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different. Our mission is, it's really concentrated.
Yeah, highly concentrated. We're looking at just one single document, but it's a document that summarizes 120 years of life experience.
We're talking about Psalm 90. It's often called the God-man Moses prayer.
And this isn't just, a poem or some historical footnote. It's the final, crystallized knowledge from a man who lived through absolute extremes.
Everything from a prince to a fugitive.
To a leader of millions. It's the whole spectrum of human experience.
Okay, so let's unpack this for you. We're going to use this reflection as a roadmap, really, to look at our own faith journeys. We're breaking down 3 huge ideas from this psalm. First, what it means to define God's absolute dominion, over time and space.
Right. And second, we have to talk about this danger Moses saw, which is, it's the danger of remaining a spiritual child. The source calls it the giant baby syndrome.
And finally, the big one. The crucial practical difference between just being afraid of God and holding him in true reverent awe.
It's a total recalibration. I mean, Moses basically forces you to look at the divine authority that is literally right next to you, and he demands you recognize not just the goodness, but also the necessary consequences of his justice.
So Moses kicks off Psalm 90 with a pretty grim baseline for humanity. He says, our years are 70, maybe 80 if we're strong.
And yet he lived 120.
Exactly. And when you look at his life, it's not just long. It breaks down into these 3 shockingly neat 40-year segments.
It's almost too perfect, right? It feels schematic, like it was designed, not just a coincidence. It shows how 3 completely different lives, extreme wealth, extreme hardship, and then this monumental responsibility.
All served one purpose.
Yeah, a single divine curriculum, all to prepare him for what was coming.
So let's just walk through that timeline. The first 40 years, from age 1 to 40, he's a prince of Egypt.
Adopted, but he has all the honor, all the education of the royal court, a life of absolute luxury.
But that ends, and it ends fast. He kills an Egyptian, and he has to flee. He becomes a fugitive.
And for the next 40 years, from 41 to 80, he's just a shepherd in Midian. He goes from, commanding people to herding sheep in total isolation.
That's not just a career change. I mean, that's an existential stripping down. He goes from the center of the world, a palace in Egypt, to the back of a desert.
And then the third act. At 80 years old, God calls him at the burning bush.
To lead millions of people out of slavery and through the wilderness for the final 40 years of his life.
So the real insight here, and this is what Moses is getting at, is that his life wasn't just long, it was radically unstable. He saw massive success and total failure, privilege, then punishment.
Right.
And he realized that every single turn, every high and every low was necessary for him to finally get his head around God's authority. He could only write Psalm 90 from that vantage point, having gained and lost everything, basically twice.
So that time in Midian, it wasn't just about learning humility, it was about gaining competence and perspective, but in total isolation. He had to stop seeing the Pharaoh's palace as the center of the universe before he could understand the true scale of things.
Exactly, and that realization, that shift in perspective, is where his great revelation in the psalm really begins. He distills 120 years down to defining God as the creator who exists completely outside of creation.
Okay, how so?
Well, he says God is our dwelling place for all generations. That's space, that's stability. But then he says God existed before the mountains were born, from everlasting to everlasting. That's time without a beginning or an end.
So God is the Alpha and the Omega. He's outside the very physics and the timeline that he created.
And that's where the human problem starts. Moses saw how foolish people just treat everything as as natural. The sun comes up, there's air to breathe, gravity works, it's all just obvious.
They deny the existence of a creator, or at least they deny that one is necessary.
Yes. And this is where we need to understand the concept of providence. It's not just that God created everything and walked away.
He has to sustain it.
Actively. It's specific moment-to-moment management. I mean, the source material gives that solar example. If the temperature of the sun reaching us changed by just 2 degrees, either way.
We'd either burn up or freeze, instantly.
Right. So creation isn't some machine on autopilot. It needs constant management.
Okay, but this is where I think Moses makes modern readers a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because we like to talk about God's nature as love, but Psalm 90, written after decades of leading difficult people, talks a lot about anger, fury, great wrath. Why?
That's the essential context he's giving us. God is justice and love, and for authority to be real, it has to have consequences when it's violated.
So the wrath isn't just arbitrary cruelty.
Not at all. It's the necessary reaction to sin. It proves his authority is absolute and consistent. Moses saw the discipline in the wilderness. He understood that if God's authority was only kind and never corrective, it would just be, well, weak, ignorable. If you ignore the consequences, you're ignoring the authority itself.
That makes a lot of sense. The severity of the consequence is what defines the gravity of the authority. And if we don't get that gravity, we stay children.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the core question for today. Do we really get the magnitude of the authority we say we serve? Or are we, spiritual children? This is that giant baby phenomenon.
A giant baby is someone who, they're physically an adult, but cognitively, emotionally, spiritually, they're still a child. They look mature, but all they want is simple provision and they avoid all responsibility.
Let's use an analogy here. Think about a young prince or princess in some massive empire. They live in the palace, they have everything they could ever want. They know their parent is the king or the queen.
But to them, that parent is just the source of their personal comfort, the one who buys them stuff, who makes sure they have food, the one who lets them get away with things.
They're completely insulated from the actual weight of the throne. They don't grasp the treaties, the military commands, the life and death decisions their parent is making every single day.
To them, the source of absolute global power is just dad or mom. It's boring background noise that provides milk and simple rules.
We even see this in everyday life. The source mentioned that example of university graduates who just show this profound cognitive laziness. They look up registered mail, which means you have to go to the counter with a document.
And somehow confuse it with a request to use parentheses. It's a cognitive disconnect, and that cognitive laziness becomes spiritual laziness.
So connecting this to faith, are believers just refusing to move past the basics?
That's the question. The book of Hebrews really calls people out on this. It says they still need milk, the simple ABCs of faith when they should be on dry rations or solid food, the deeper truths.
And the problem wasn't that they were new to the faith. It was that they refused to advance, even after years.
Exactly, and refusing to grow up, to move from just demanding provision to embracing purpose. That's a form of ignorance about the authority you serve. If you stay a spiritual giant baby, you'll just never get God's real plan for your life, which is always about maturity and contribution.
And for so many people, the ultimate symbol of God's blessing is manna. That miraculous food in the wilderness.
And it was a blessing. We should celebrate it. It was a spectacular, necessary miracle in a completely hostile environment.
Right.
But we missed the whole point. That daily provision was not God's ultimate desire for them. It was temporary. It was a means to an end.
The real goal was Canaan, the promised land. But getting into Canaan required courage, maturity, a willingness to fight for it.
And that's exactly where they failed. Moses sends 12 leaders, the best and brightest, to scout the land. 10 of them come back terrified.
Right. They see the bounty, but all they can focus on are the problems. The high walls, the tall people, the strong enemies.
And they completely forget the 10 massive miracles God had already done for them. The plagues, splitting the Red Sea, defeating the Amalekites.
They saw God shatter the world's superpower, Egypt, but now they're scared of some local giants.
Their mistake wasn't a bad memory. It was a failure of trust, and it was rooted in a fear of personal cost. They had faith for the easy miracle, the manna that just appeared, but not for the military commitment that Canaan demanded.
So they chose the comfort of the wilderness over the difficulty of the promise.
And in doing that, in saying, let's just stay here with the manna, it's safer, they were profoundly belittling God's authority.
How so?
They were essentially telling God, you're powerful enough to feed us in a desert, but you're not powerful enough to win for us in the promised land. They put a ceiling on his power.
And that unbelief, that settling for manna, that led to 40 years of wandering. A journey that should have taken 11 days took 4 decades.
That's the real-world consequence of spiritual immaturity. Refusing the promise, choosing provision over commitment, it leads to discipline and a radical delay of your destiny. Because the whole point of Canaan wasn't just prosperity, it was so they could worship God as a nation. It was about obedience.
So if we really take in Moses' understanding of God's authority and the consequences of ignoring it, what's the right response? Moses is clear it's not supposed to be crippling fear.
Right, and this brings us to that parable of the talents.
Matthew 25. The master gives his servants money. 2 of them invest it, double it. But the third one, the one called wicked and lazy, he just buries his.
And what was his excuse? Master, I knew you were a hard man, so I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent.
That's the key distinction. Fear was his excuse for doing nothing.
Exactly. True reverence, genuine awe, it's not paralyzing. The master didn't just call him wicked, he called him lazy. A truly reverent servant is productive. They understand the honor of being trusted with the master's assets.
Today, so many people bury their talents, their time, their gifts. They're afraid of failure, or maybe just the inconvenience of commitment.
They use a kind of false humility as an excuse for laziness. Oh, I'm not qualified, or I'm too busy. But the source material is clear that failure to serve is defined as wickedness.
And the need for workers is urgent. Jesus himself said the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. He sent them out like lambs among wolves.
This isn't just a theoretical problem, it's acute. We can see it in the numbers.
Like that example from Taiwan. The Presbyterian Church there is projecting something like 400 pastors will retire in the next decade.
And their seminaries are only producing about 25 graduates a year. The scarcity of workers is not a historical problem, it's right now.
Which is where that idea of the priesthood of all believers comes in.
Yes, from Martin Luther. We make this mistake of thinking sacred work is only for clergy. But his teaching was that every single believer is called to sacred service. Your job as a CEO, an engineer, a parent, that is your sacred vocation.
So rejecting that call to serve, saying you're too busy or not good enough, it's a failure of loyalty. You're choosing to stand outside the master's work, and you forfeit the honor of sitting at his table.
If God has trusted you with something, an ability or an opportunity, burying it out of spiritual laziness is a profound mistake.
So we started this deep dive by saying that you, the listener, you believe in God. You'd never intentionally deny him. But Moses forces us to ask a harder question. Does your belief include reverence for his absolute authority, for his mature, demanding plan for your life?
Let's end with that final analogy from the source. Think about why you put on a seatbelt. Is it motivated by a paralyzing fear of the police fine, the $1,500 or $3,000 fine?
Or is it motivated by reverence and appreciation for the life-saving protection that the design offers you?
Is your piety rooted in fear of punishment, the discipline of the wilderness? Or is it gratitude and awe for your status as a trusted child and servant, someone who is equipped and called to contribute?
Moses lived his last decades actively preparing to enter eternity, leading his people right to the edge of their destiny. He wasn't just being them, waiting to die.
So if you see your remaining years as just a waiting period for God to take you home, you might be missing the point. You might be failing to grow and contribute the way a mature child should.
So here's the final thought for you to consider. If God's ultimate plan is for you to grow up, to embrace difficulty and commitment, and to make a profound contribution, are you currently settling for the spiritual comfort of manna and missing out entirely on the abundant, challenging life He equipped you to build in Canaan? That is the 120-year lesson we can't afford to forget.